Okay, let's call the meeting to order. What's the date today?
24th.
September 24th.
September 24th of the Oregon City Park and Recreation Advisory Committee. And first on the agenda, we'll have introductions starting on my far right. Daniel.
Daniel Tupper.
Blaine Meyer.
Sean Datchler.
Kathleen Baker.
Bob Burns.
Joyce Gifford.
Roger Fowler Tice.
Denise Kai, staff.
Okay, next we have consideration of the minutes of the meeting of June 25th. Seems like a long time ago. Are there any corrections that people would like to make? Any omissions, corrections on those minutes? If not, may I hear a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of June 25th, 2015. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? They are approved. Okay, next item is, I think we'll use this. If we have any citizens that would like to make comments this evening? No, okay, then let's go to item 5, general business. 5A, summary of activity review. And while Denise gets her voice up to speed, we all received an activity report, which was extensive and well done, I thought. But I guess she'll highlight some things.
Basically, if you had any questions in regards to those reports, let me know. We'll also have some time at the end if something comes to mind. Our Concert in the Park series was highly successful, extremely well attended. We had our first parking snafu with one of our bands just because it was really crowded. So we did make some adjustments into the next band week, and those seemed to take care of the issues, and we didn't hear any other complaints. So Rochelle Parsh, who does our concerts in the park and our movies, did an excellent job all summer while she is about 3 weeks from delivering her first baby. So big props to her and her staff. And then we did the volunteer recognition. That also was in conjunction with the concerts in the park, and that went really extremely well. As Kathy Wiseman and her staff put that together, and they did an excellent job keeping it organized. We did things a little bit different, and we got a lot of good feedback from that as well. So that's kind of the summer big events. And then our recreation programs, just we had either full classes, waiting lists, or just a few spots left. So even our summer day camps went extremely well this year. And then as far as Park Day event, I don't know if you guys wanted to do a debrief or a wrap-up or comments, pros, cons.
Any comments on our Parks Day?
Couldn't have asked for nicer weather.
Yeah.
Well attended, great weather, lots of people.
I guess my question would be, from staff standpoint, do you guys receive any comments afterwards that, hey, or inquiries based upon learning something that night? Does it generate anything?
Complaints. So I didn't attend personally, so there were some comments, to the good, and we, love this, or we love that. But there were a lot of, hey, have you guys ever thought about, and because this is bad, and it reflected to the deferred maintenance. So it gave an opportunity for staff to say, this is what we're doing, this is what we're planning. So I think it gave an open conversation piece. So I would say that lent to some discussions amongst the community that maybe they didn't realize was coming up or upcoming. So it was good.
Good.
That's all I've got.
One Doug Neely sent some feedback on the movies that I'll just mention. He isn't here to represent his issue with that, but he was concerned, it sounded like, the appropriateness for younger children. But I'll let him speak to that.
And I can comment to that point. We put out there's a listing of movies that we can put out for movies in the park. Rochelle takes those listings and breaks them up into groupings, and then we ask the community to vote. So the community asked for, the previous summer, they asked for some PG-13 films to be offered, and then the community could vote on it. So the community got a listing of movies, and they were asked to vote, and we had a lot of participation in the voting. I think it was in the hundreds of people voting. And so the selection is from the community and not from staff. So we listened to the community, what they wanted to see out there, then we gave them the opportunity to vote on the movies, and so that's how the movies are selected. So we do understand Doug's concern, but we were also responding to the community's wants and needs.
I think from my standpoint, I would like to see this maybe on another future agenda item and let Doug address his current concerns. And the one thing that comes to mind on the particular night maybe in question is I'd be curious of the numbers, the votes. In other words, was it close to the next one? I don't know if that would influence my decision following a discussion, but it might be interesting or it might provide some insight.
I'll ask Rochelle because I know she keeps statistics.
Yeah.
And I think if you go back in your reports, she usually does post the results. So I can even look that up, but if not, I'll
I
freshen
missed
that
it
up.
if it
I'll freshen it up.
Thanks.
I think that they're also posted on the website. It'll say how many votes each movie received.
And Facebook. So she keeps that up.
Okay.
She's a numbers girl.
Okay,
My
Nick?
only disappointment was the last movie where they had to move one down, and so it became a double feature. And the one I wanted to see was the later feature, and it was just too late for me to be out, and so I missed seeing the movie. And I understand, but I did get a comment from some people that did go to the double feature, and they had a great time. So it was an interesting way to cover our bases for a movie that had to be moved because of weather. Was that?
Yeah, we had too much wind for the inflatable screen.
Okay.
So, and then it had a threat of rain on top of that. But just with that inflatable screen, that amount of wind was causing some havoc.
So did you receive any other comments about the double feature? Did anybody go to the double feature?
When you say double feature, are you saying one was at one time and one was
They
afterwards?
one right after another. So
Oh.
they started
Well,
at 8 o'clock or
Yeah.
whatever time it got dark, and then the second movie didn't get over until after midnight.
well, not that this would solve your problem, because you can't stay up, didn't want to stay up late, but what
Well-
if they ran one at the G rated it earlier and the PG-13 later?
It wasn't
No,
intentional.
that was because they had to move a movie.
Yeah.
Did it cancel?
One of the movies was canceled, so that's the only reason they did a double feature, because normally you would never do that.
Okay.
Yeah. It just got to be really late.
Okay.
And part of our issue with that is we have a contract with them, and normally you would think that we could extend to another week, but they're booked up through the summer. So trying to grab an extra week could have been 4 weeks out or not at all. So the only way for us to have gotten that out there was to do the double feature.
Okay, any other comments on that item? If not, let's move to item 5B, the annual report to the City Commission. And I will lead off with that. We had a nice meeting with the City Commission. Sean and I represented the committee. And I hope you all got copies of our comments. We asked it be sent out, but I can't remember if you did or didn't.
We
but
watched you online.
Oh, good. Then that's better. I think,
Or worse.
I think, or worse. But I thought it went well, and we got good feedback from the City Commission. So, Sean?
Well, I think there was one takeaway that we need to bring back, and it's a very general comment, but the commissioners encouraged us and them, kind of as a group, to look into the future at addressing the school board in relationship to Britt Tucker's position at the high school, and encouraging kind of prematurely almost that they maintain that program. Let us kind of comment on the value it brings to the city and the community, and kind of partner with the commission on that, and I thought that was something we would definitely want to bring up.
That reminds me, I had a conversation with Superintendent Didway 3 or 4 weeks ago on an unrelated matter, and I told him how much we appreciated that program and how valuable it has been to the city, and hope that it will be continued. So it was kind of a one-way conversation, but he was very gracious, but no long-term commitment. Anything else on that item? Let's go to the next one, item 5C. It's the Willamette Falls Legacy Project. And to review our tour dates is one of the things that Scott and Denise want us to do. They submitted a new round of dates, October 2, October 30th, November 6th, 13th, and 20th. So there are 5 dates, and they'd like us to pick one that's best for all. And my only thought is the earlier the better, because of the weather might be changing. But
I tend to agree with the philosophy. I'm out next week, the 2nd. I would not be able to make that.
any other preferences for a date?
No, your thought was the same as mine.
These
I'd
are
like
all
to
on
do it
Fridays.
as
These are
early.
all Friday. How would the 6th be? November 6th.
Good for
Any
me.
conflicts on the 6th?
That works.
6th?
Is that a holiday weekend? Is that the Veterans Day holiday weekend?
Veterans Day is actually on a Wednesday this year,
It's on the 11th.
if I remember right.
So they're not moving it to the Monday?
No.
Well, the 6th is a Friday.
Yeah, they're all Fridays that they were given to us. Okay.
And the Veterans Day is
Veterans the 11th.
November.
It's the 11th.
That's November 11th.
Yeah,
Correct, and we're looking at November 6th.
November 6th.
Oh, I was thinking October 6th.
Yeah.
So I
Well,
just-
is the 6th satisfactory? Can we pass that on?
What were all the dates again?
The 2nd, this is October 2nd, the 30th,
Oh, and the next one was the 30th. Okay, I'm sorry.
then the 6th, 13th, and 20th of November. We can't do it the 20th, that's my birthday.
We can get you out in time for dinner.
What day is November 6th?
They're all Fridays.
Oh, okay.
So it's basically.
How about the 6th?
I'm
We-
good with the 6th.
Yeah.
I'm good.
6th,
is good.
hearing the
November
6th,
6th?
we can pass that on. Do you have any other comments on that
I
item?
do have one more, and this is because of daylight savings time is November 1st. So if we bumped it back to, if we took that October 30th date,
Okay,
your daylight hours are better, significantly.
What time is it?
that's an okay date for me, too.
It was like 3 to 5 or 2 to 4.
They start at 4.
Yeah, and see, it's
I
dark
think
at
it's at
4:30
o'clock.
once you get.
2 to
Yep.
4?
Oh, 2 to 4, okay, 2 to 4.
Yeah.
2 to 4 would work.
Yeah, 2 to 4.
4's pushing dusk once you get into November
Mhm.
and daylight saving. So,
Yeah, it's stone dark.
so I recommend we do October 30th.
Okay, October 30th.
That's fine.
Okay down here?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, let's say October 30th then.
Good call.
Otherwise, you'll need flashlights.
I'm pretty iffy on
Which could
any
be fun.
Friday afternoon.
Well, that's true.
So.
In fact, I would advise you, if you have a pocket flashlight, to bring it anyway. There were places that we went that we were holding our iPhones out last time for light. So,
Those are all the places that said no entrance and do
Right.
not enter.
right.
I mean, those
Yeah.
hard
But the
hats
guy
don't
took
come
us.
with headlamps.
You're right.
Okay, next item. Let's move on to item 5D, the swimming pool projects update.
So we are in a 7-week shutdown. We will be done with the shutdown on October 17th. During our shutdown, we're completely stripping the pool shell, and we're doing another high epoxy paint and then putting the stripes on. With that painting, it also has to have a cure time where it doesn't have water in it. So that is one of the projects that we're doing. The other project that we are starting is the ADA compliant family changing rooms, which we're putting 2 into the pool site, and they are on the end of the deck, on the shallow end. They used to be offices and a small bathroom and a small changing room with a curtain in the office. So we've made it so that they're actually ADA compliant, and they're right next to each other. So there'll be 2 separate entrances, the shower, sink, and toilet, all encompassed. If you've been into North Clackamas Pool, they have those individualized ADA compliant changing rooms. It'll be somewhat similar to that. That gets us more compliant with our ADA components for that older building. And it's also really close to the pool deck, so it makes it very easy for that transition to occur. The project that we have held off a little bit longer is the front lobby. So making an ADA compliant entryway through the front lobby. So that will occur a little bit further down the road. Being that it's an old building, it's a little more complicated for construction, even though it's a small project. So we've had a little bit of trouble getting contractors interested in the project. So we're actually general contracting our own portion of the ADA restrooms. So between staff that we all deal with construction, we're contracting out the electrical, the plumbing, those types of things, and then putting it all together. So generally we would have a general contractor do all of that, but we couldn't get a general contractor interested. So we're doing our own general work. We're still in compliance with prevailing wage and BOLI and all that stuff. And then it just may take us a little bit longer to get this done just because of the components and trying to get everybody in there. And as we open up, we'll still have some construction occurring. But it's in a confined space, so we can still have that not be a conflict. So we'll post pictures, like we had the before and afters on all of our other projects. We'll make sure that you guys get the before and afters on this one because it will be a significant change, but a good one. I think the only other thing that we're doing is changing, we're looking at getting our doors, our exterior and interior doors that make it ADA compliant with push button and making the hardware a little bit more compatible. So lots of things changing. Some things when you walk in you may not notice because you have to open doors or it's in the water, but lots of things changing for the good.
Any questions? I had just a comment on your report that you sent out, activity report on the swimming pool. I think I remember a comment that the activities were full, not room for any additional activities.
We have quite a bit of waiting listing that happens because of our confined water space. So when we put classes out, they are typically full, and then we'll take a waiting list. So unless we start growing our facility, we'll continue to have some waiting lists.
Okay, this construction won't help that.
It's not changing our pool
Yeah.
capacity,
Okay.
no.
That was my question. Okay. Anything else on that?
Lady in the audience had a question.
If you have a question, want to take the microphone, please. Introduce yourself and ask.
Comment card.
Yeah, you need a
can do
comment
it
card. Yeah.
My name is Leslie Stevens.
Just please start over and speak into the microphone so they can pick up your voice.
Oh, I'm being recorded.
Thank you.
All right. My name is Leslie Stevens, and I'm a local community member. I live up in the Crabtree Terrace area, Maple Lane and Thayer. And I just had a question about the pool renovation that you were mentioning with the ADA compliant restrooms. Is there a specific, I'm sure there's a specific plan already in place, but I wondered if there was a way to make a stall for the toilet to be separated and closed off from the shower and bench area.
Not with our confined space.
Okay.
There's radiuses for turnarounds, and if we put walls in there, we would lose the ability to
Space.
have 2 changing rooms. So having 1 changing room would limit how much accessibility we would have to. We have a high elderly population, and then we have I think it's the high school brings in a class of students that have special needs, and so having their aides and stuff, being able to do more than 1 student at a time gives us more opportunities to get them in and out quicker, and same with our elderly population. So that's why that didn't work. We just have confined space.
Yeah, I was just curious. Having been to the North Clackamas Aquatic Park, I would have made that suggestion.
We would have loved to have been able to do that as well.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Any other comments on that item? Okay, then let's move on to the next item, which is 5E, the Glen Oak and Filbert Run Master Plans. I guess that's back to Denise. Update on that?
The update is that they are finalized, and at this point, sorry, let me flip my sheet over. Basically, Scott was asking to see if you guys had any questions or any discussion in regards to, he had sent them out to you guys through email, and at this point, the commission gave an okay at the last one of their, I don't know if it was the last one, but at a work session. So the next process we would do is, I believe, when we get to getting ready for construction, it still has to go through site plan review. So at that point, there's still potential for comment from the public.
Okay, any questions or comments? Okay, we're moving right along here. Then let's go on. Oh, I had a question that came to me from Mike Mitchell, a former member, asking if there were any plans underway for specific dates on development. I told him I didn't think so. I hadn't heard any, and those things are way out in the future sometime. But is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
I think on that note, it might be good to, as we get towards the fall, it's been a long time since we've reviewed STCs and budgets, and maybe time to review that at a future PrAC meeting when we can hammer Scott on it.
And just on that note, we'll be our fiscal, we're in a 2-year cycle, so we're in our new fiscal year budget. So we'll be midpoint of that next budget by November, December.
Perfect.
So we have probably a year and a half, but roughly about October, November, we start budgeting cycle for the next 2-year cycle. So we'll get through this year, and then the following year, about October, November, we start budgeting again through that process for the following 2 years.
Okay. Other comments from anybody? All right, let's move on then to 5F, Oregon City High School Construction Project, Barkley Hills Park Playground.
So originally, the high school was going to do Atkinson's shelter,
Yeah.
and they decided that they would switch the project to the Barkley Hills Park Playground, which is in desperate need of a transition. So they are going to look at the drainage and changing out the playground equipment at Barkley Hills. So I think that is what they're looking at for their project for the year, which this is Britt's last year. He's retiring. So trying not to do a complicated project that will flip over into the next year if things get waylaid. So with construction of a shelter, if there were problems or things like that, the potential of it waylaying into the next year and Britt not being here. So we wanted to see if we make sure that we had a project that was viable, needed to be done from the park side, also kind of met their needs as far as it being a finite 1-year project. So I think John Waverly and Britt and the class are all working together and getting this thing moved forward. But they're going to continue to work on getting that replacement for the playground done because it is in dire need. And it's budgeted and all the grant funds roll over to that project.
Now, hasn't the fence been moved already? Wasn't there a fence that had to be moved
Barkley?
there?
I don't think there was
Barkley?
a fence that was moved there.
No,
To
Barclays
my-
never had a fence.
There's not really a fence. There's neighbors' fences in the back lower corner,
Okay, I
but
must say
nothing on
Yeah,
the
which
top.
one's Barkley then?
Over by the cemetery.
I got the wrong one, excuse me.
So did I. You
Yeah.
took me down
Yeah.
the wrong tangent.
It's near the cemetery. So if you're familiar with that neighborhood, you go down the street. I think it's Duane and
Yeah.
I can't remember the other street off the top of my
I remember
head.
the bus tour. They talked about the playground area
Right.
on that.
Yeah.
So
It's on a
Barkley
a
Hills.
slope.
yeah.
So the playground sits
That's why
kind
it's
of at the
Barkley
top
Park,
of,
right?
kind of slopes down to the playground. So
Yes.
has some drainage issues and then slopes further past the playground.
It's had drainage issues ever since it was built in the 1980s.
Yes.
In fact, we've had people come to our meeting talking about going through the ankle-deep water to get into the park. Isn't that the same issue we've had here?
This one is definitely
Yeah, probably.
on the wet side.
Okay, anything else on that item? Then let's move to the next, which is art in the parks, 5G.
And this one was brought forward, I believe, by Roger.
Well, I was under the impression that we were going to get some hard copy.
I have hard copies, and I believe Scott sent out email copies.
Yes, he did.
Okay.
Well, it turns out if this is being incorporated in that the Art Alliance, there was first of all there was the question of who is in charge and is managing the art in the city. It was in the parks or the city, and it turns out that the Clackamas Art Commission, Clackamas Art Alliance, is managing instead of the Art Commission, which is not happening right now, and that's
just
excuse me. Oh, sorry, I'm trying to. So. I guess as far as my bringing up the subject of art in the parks, I'm not quite sure where that stands. You know, if whether our committee would where our committee would stand on that now. And my idea was that we would have some oversight on any art that was placed in the park.
And we do. The PRAC is given reports. The art that's going into the library project, even though the library is on a park, it's inside the library, so that's considered more of a furnishing. But if we had an art project that would go into a park, usually the PRAC is notified and a discussion is ensued. The Clackamas County Arts Alliance is a contract, so that they do some of the footwork that would be typical of like what we're doing right now with the library. They'll they'll set up a scope of work. They'll set up, they'll work with the architects or whomever is involved in the project as far as placement or placement options, material options, budget factors. They'll do a whole litany of that work, hands-on work, and then present to a committee, and the committee is made up of a group of folks in different realms of interest, artists, owners, sponsors. For the library, we have the library building committee, Mo, who's the director. Roger is on the committee from the parks venues point of view. We have a couple of artists, and we have the Friends of the Library. So it's a mixed group of people that have a vetted interest in this project, but also a varied perspective. And then the group receives the proposals back, kind of looks at these proposals, decides on if they have a vein of thought that they want this particular thing, or if they want something similar to. So not always do you get the very specific thing that you're going to have erected or put into a site, but something that you know what you're kind of getting out of it. Our bike rack, which is a functional piece, not necessarily like art in the park, down over at EOT, that was part of Arts Commission or Arts Alliance project that had grant funds towards it. So that is a piece that we did this process through. And we came to the commission, or the PRAC, and said, we're putting in this art piece through this, so we give a report. A portion of the project budget is paid to the Alliance to be the kind of the contractor for that process. So that's kind of how this is working right now. That's not to say that the City Commission may change back to the format that's in the policy. So, but it lends to that public process.
Wait, I had separated out the library portion as part of my report. That's why I was just working on what the general art in the parks, placement. So just so everybody knows, that's why I didn't bring up the library right away, because it is happening in the interior of the library, which is not our jurisdiction. So
The exterior can go through the same process. We have through the County Arts Alliance, they have opportunities of grant funding, and with city match, we can do a bigger, better project. So we just haven't necessarily identified, and again, it lends to you guys if this is a priority, Arts in the Park. That is a group that we have partnered with and have gotten really good product out of for different projects in the city, not necessarily parks. But that same process has been going on for at least the last few years that I'm aware of, working with the County Arts Alliance, because we can match grant dollars with them.
I did email Elizabeth today, and she said that there were several projects that were done in the past. And the bike rack is the one.
And it was a multi-jurisdictional, so it wasn't just Oregon City. There were, I think, 4 cities that all came together through that process. We all picked something very, very specific to our city's needs, and that's how that one came out.
Well, my question to the group is, the committee is, do we want to be able to suggest things or put out calls for art, or is that something that we feel we want to do, or are we not going, and is that not part of our direction?
I think at this point that has not been something we have put as a priority in our budget. So if we're looking at art, and it's going to be an extensive art piece, our current budget is really prioritized towards our deferred maintenance or our projects that have been identified as goals to accomplish. So if art is a particular interest, I think that PrAC would want to bring that forward and have a discussion about where that level of priority goes. And then we have to kind of look at our budgeting and the ability to budget for those. Not to say that there aren't grant opportunities within budget years that we don't have budget for, that we can't find some funds to match with that, or matching a grant with a grant to obtain art. So there are varying ways to bring art into, say, a park or a program and fund it. But I don't know that that has been a priority, and I know for right now it's not a priority in our budget.
Well, the only other thing I have to say is that the last 2 pieces that I was aware of were loaner art from the artists, and they were up there quite a while. And the only thing that I myself would like to see is that if we do get art like that again, that it is properly placed and properly and respectfully placed for the artist. Because I think the last pieces were on the grass and they were kind of leaning downhill. And I just thought we probably could have done something a little bit better, for the artists. So,
do we currently have are we allowed input on art pieces, even though it's not in our budget, and we don't maybe have the final say on choosing a particular piece of art? We do have input, though, don't we?
If it's in a park, you have input.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we had a lot of input on the one on Ladderette Park that somehow only got half finished. And I would really love to see something change on that, because, half done is not well begun when it stops midway through. So whatever happened, did the person graduate from the school, or?
Don't know. I wasn't in charge of that project or connected with her after we had the meeting, so I'm not sure what lent there, but it was a volunteer project.
She was on her own doing that, her volunteer time.
are you
Correct.
referring to the mural?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that kind of easy to get someone else and continue it on.
Well, then the artist, Roger.
Mr. Chair, would it be possible for our committee to develop an art policy that we would be able then to give to groups that are seeking grants to put art in the parks, that we could give that and say, you need to follow this?
There
think they
there
need
is a policy, there is a city policy
Yes.
that I think before we start initiating policy, we need to be well aware of what that policy
Sure,
says.
absolutely.
Maybe we're already included. I've seen it, but I haven't studied it.
It's
So-
something we would follow as far as this committee. That's what
I think we should take a look at it and
Yeah.
know what's in it before we,
Yeah, having read the policy, my interpretation of it made it appear that there was plenty of opportunity for us to volunteer as participants in the selection committees. And so I would trust that staff would advise us if there's a new opportunity and it happens to affect one of our facilities, that they would be asking us, do we want to volunteer Roger for that selection committee?
I think that would be a good resolution. Also, Roger, you're on this new arts committee.
Right, now-
And you could also keep us aware of what's going on.
I have that in my report for my report.
I know, but on
Oh,
this
okay.
item,
Oh, okay.
just, well, that's what I was going to say. You're on that committee, and you can have influence and keep us involved in what's going on there. Okay. Any other comments on that?
Well,
Anything else?
For myself, I guess, as long as there is an opportunity to get loaner art, and if we can't afford loaner art, and I don't know which group would put, a call out for something like that, if we were the ones to do it, or if the Art Alliance we would work with the Art Alliance for that, or if it's not something we want to do. That's those are the three things I would like to know. It's as everybody knows, I mean, art has always been classical. It's very classical to have art in our parks, and to enhance the community. So I guess I'm just
Where do we
throwing
go?
that out, and I don't
Well,
know how
in the past, we had people approach us that wanted to put, artists that wanted to put their art in the park. And that's what I thought we were working at Ladderette. So I don't know, that fell by the wayside. So if there was art to be done in the park, finishing that mural I think would be kind of one of the priorities. It's
Another way that we have incorporated some art in the park, if you go down to Clackamas Park, the sign down there was
Yes.
so badly in need of a change out. We used one of the pilings in conjunction with an art project that went in the park, which is the Rock and the Fish. That project, it's a couple years ago, I think 2 or 3 years ago now.
Yeah, a couple.
But then we put one of the dock pilings that fell over, we reused that in the sign for Clackamas Park, just a front of that fish and rock art piece. So we can always take some funding for deferred maintenance and potentially incorporate art into a functionality of the park. So that's not beyond what we have already done. So that is something that we could look at. But loaner art in a park, is that feasible? Does the liability factors cover something? With the library, it's right in front of the library, in front of a fire department. We had lots of activity there to kind of keep an eye on it. Art in a park, it might be potentially some other liabilities. And I don't know if artists would want to leave their stuff in a park. So, I mean, there's, is it compatible for a park? Are there opportunities for us to put art in a park? Absolutely. So it's just by what means and what's compatible with a park. All questions.
Not sure where you go from here, but any other comments on art in the parks?
No, other than just that Roger keep us apprised
Yeah.
of opportunities. And
I like Joyce's idea. If there's a way to continue to finish the project in Ladderette Park, that would be a nice
Was that a
Feature.
high school project?
a college project.
college.
College.
Yeah.
Is there some way that maybe we can contact the college and see if there's somebody there that wants to move it along a little bit? You know, because something like that is easy to kind of add on to and just continue on the concept in it. So.
Mr. Chair.
What do you think, Denise? Is that a possibility?
I will have to
Or-
go back and look and see what college it was. And
Okay.
See if we have those contacts.
I was assuming it was Clackamas, but
No,
No,
it was,
no, I think it was Portland
Portland
State.
State, I believe.
Portland State.
okay.
Sean?
Yeah, I just want to make one comment really directly to Roger, that I appreciate what you're doing here, because I remember working on the McLaughlin Promenade project phase 1, and there was a lot of art, the waterfalls, and clearly art is not my area of expertise. And so, kind of like pickleball, I think you bringing this element in helps the rest of us, so I appreciate that and keeping us. I don't know if we're going in the direction you were hoping we were tonight, but just bringing that element up is not something I would have thought of, so I appreciate it.
Yeah, actually, it was the art that was placed in the library, and that's what brought this issue up. But I think it's going forward, and especially with what's going to be happening with the city and the walkway, and I don't know where we're going to be as far as committee involved in that. I just thought that it would be good to have some form of policy, and if it's following the city's public art policy, then that's what we should do, and it's because it's there, and it's just a matter of us looking at it and studying it and seeing how we can use that to our advantage.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, let's move on to the next item then. 5H, other general business.
I have one, Mr. Chair. I
Sean?
wanted to ask Denise to give us a brief update on the dog play area facilities. Last word, it was going to happen in a couple weeks. Where are we at?
I wasn't aware of that conversation, so I will have to go back to Scott to see kind of where that's at, and our parks manager.
Okay.
Both of those items have been kind of in their playpen, so I'll have to
Okay.
see kind of what's going on with that. So I apologize, I do not have a report on that.
Okay.
Are we in general business now?
Other general business?
That's where we are.
That's where we are.
I have something that I would like to add. Since I was going to make a point when we were talking about the Willamette Falls, and I just wanted to say that my wife and I attended the event on the 9th at the Arts
Willamette Art
Museum, and there was quite a turnout, and it was really a pretty good presentation there by the architects, and very impressive, and to see the response of so many people. And I know we were sitting next to a lady that I think she was just looking for something to do, so she came in, but she found it very interesting. So I just wanted to point out that excellent turnout, and it's very inspiring. So.
Okay. Any other under general business? General business? Any other items to bring up? Denise, you okay with that?
I'm good with that.
We're member reports, and let's start with you, Roger.
Thank you.
You're warmed up.
I have several. The first is the Pioneers Center, and we are in full swing for fall. Entertainment books and Chinook books are available for sale at the front desk. This is a fundraiser for this center. We are already making bowls for Christmas wreath sale. We anticipate 250 wreaths being sold this year. We have several seminars on healthy eating, walking, and meal prep. We are looking for another nurse, RN, to provide additional days of pedicures. We are booked out past December at this time. We are looking for volunteers and have begun a campaign of getting the word out again. We need receptionists, kitchen help, and meal drivers. Classes are full. Meals on Wheels is near capacity. The most we can serve is 120. We are pushing 117. This is due to the budget and the number of routes we can accommodate. Item 2 is the Library Public Art Committee, which we've had 2 meetings so far, and the committee has decided there would be 3 art opportunities for artists, and all art would be designed for the interior of the library. Opportunity 1, interior suspended artwork in the new foyer with some possible lighting included. Opportunity 2, children's area entry, create a dynamic interactive art installation that would encourage exploration both mentally and physically. Opportunity 3, Fripp pattern designed to be installed in the southern facing windows of the new 2-story foyer. This could be included into opportunity number 1. A call for artists has been written and will be sent out nationally October 1st, 2015, with an October 30th application deadline. Other dates of interest: early November application review, artist application review. Mid-November, artist interviews, selection finalists. December, contracting would be complete. January 2016, design review, approval, fabrication, and installation. And September 2016, public dedication. And my last item to report is the Oregon City Parks Foundation has completed writing the completed writing the bylaws, and they have been sent out for a lawyer's review. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Any comments or questions of Roger? Joyce?
Just want to say there were lots and lots of activities over the summer for parks, and I was glad to see a lot of you there, especially at the concerts and the movies and things. On October 6th, that's a Tuesday evening, the Hillendale Neighborhood Association and Tower Vista Neighborhood Association are going to combine to have a meeting, and we have asked Oregon City School District to come and talk about their master plan up at the Beaver Creek campus, which will impact the Glen Oak Park area. So if you're interested on what's going on up there, the new roads that are being discussed, the new transportation facility that's going to be right across the street from Glen Oak Park, that will be discussed. So there was the neighborhood's night out, there was a safety fair, the pickleball. I've seen the pickleballers on the streets in the town, and they are so pleased with their new courts. They are just really, really happy with that. And the only other thing I wanted to bring up is, after reading the minutes from the last meeting, has anything been done about the disc golf in Singer Hill? And the very kind, generous offer to replace one of the poles. So Phil Yates brought that forward, and I think we need to not let that ball drop, or that flying disc.
I will ask John Waverly and see where we're at on that.
Okay.
I obviously haven't been to a few meetings, so I'm kind of catching up just through this meeting.
Katie?
Yeah, I could have brought it up earlier, but I wanted to make a comment on the Rivercrest day camps, and my 7-year-old attended almost all of them, and I just wanted to give kudos to the Parks Department for putting on such a great program, and especially for the young adult counselors who ran all those children around, and they did such a great job.
I'll pass that along.
Good. Sean?
Nothing to report.
Really? Blaine?
Just a few comments. The Oregon City Trail Alliance, there's a tie-in to Parks and Recreation, so just to let you know a couple of things. One, we've been approached to ask that we would talk to the Parks and Rec and Transportation Advisory Committee about starting a policymaker ride annually. And so what those are, some of you may know already, but Portland does that, Milwaukee, and what they'll do is they'll organize a bike ride, or those that can't ride can ride the van, and they go out to areas in the city where projects have already been completed or are needing to be improved. And so for instance, we thought that the first one might be on the Myers Road, Leland, Lynn corridor, and so we've been talking with Kelly Moosberger Reed now, and she's excited about it. But we'd like to know if the Parks and Rec would be wanting to, they wouldn't be organizing and running it, but at least, be involved in that. And we thought we'd probably have our first event in 2016, early 2016. So that's the local Oregon City PMR, they call it Policymakers Ride, which would be an annual event. So is there interest in that? And then secondly, the Portland does their annual, and they do it in different counties. So we're hoping to maybe get them to come in 2017 and do their Policymaker Ride and include the Blue Heron Willamette Falls Legacy Project and include a tour in that. So then there's the Oregon City Chamber, just to let you know, is they're organizing, I don't think they've made a final decision on whether they're going to do this, but they're doing an annual fundraiser that would be a biking event. I guess they're going to stop the antique fair, and they wanted a different fundraiser, so they're looking at doing a bike. But I thought that would be I've been encouraging that they tie that into the parks in some way, and so they've been very open to that. So just FYI. And then there's been a lot of talk about doing a Sunday Parkways program, which is walking, biking, skateboarding, whatever, anything that's active transportation. And so we'd be highlighting different parks, and Portland does that. It's quite a lot of work in terms of street closures and things like that. But once it gets going, in Portland, they're just tremendously popular. So that's kind of, we're working on that. The Trail Alliance is working on that. And I think that is it. Back to the question, is this committee interested in us pushing forward on the Policymakers Ride?
What would you see our involvement? A representative on some committee, or participating in the actual event, or just how do you see us being involved?
I don't have any specifics. I would say probably that's a good place to start, would be that we would bring, as we develop, as the committee develops, if someone wants to be on that, I could be on that, represent our committee, but bring, monthly reports and get input from all of you. But basically, we just wanted this to be supported by the Parks and Rec and Transportation Advisory Committee.
Any comments about that? Sounds interesting. Interesting proposition.
I would say two things. I would be interested in writing it, and I would be interested in knowing more about it. So I don't see any reason why this group wouldn't be interested from my standpoint.
Anything involving the parks, definitely be interested, and if we can get more information on it, that'd be great.
Sure.
Could we put this on a next month agenda and have more lengthy discussion and have a good discussion about it? It sounds like an excellent idea to me.
Okay, I will do it.
Okay.
Nothing for me.
Nothing for you. Okay, let me just wrap up then with what I have to say. It's mostly been said. Excellent Parks Day. We had a wonderful person that kind of ran the show here.
Oh, I was just giving away stuff. What's wrong?
You did a great job, Joyce. Good activity report. Whoever puts that together, it's a lot of work, a lot of data there. We'd encourage everybody to read it. The progress on the library, it looks like they're just moving ahead fast and furious. They've got a huge hole in the ground and
And you
pouring
can
cement.
watch the
And
progress. They have a camera.
It's linked
they've
on
got
our-
streets blocked off. And
Sorry, it's linked. The link to the camera is on the Oregon City's website, so you can watch its time
Time-lapse, yeah.
Time-lapse, there you go.
next item, this is also Doug mentioned in his report, an item he wants to talk more about. That's the trails, walking trails and cycling trails. And this kind of fits right in with his idea, so hopefully he'll be back next month and we can have a good discussion about that, how he can explain really what he would like to see, his recommendations, and then how that ties in with, Blaine, what you have to say here. I mentioned I had a nice conversation with Superintendent Didway and told him how much we appreciated the efforts and the accomplishments of that the students and teacher. And I'm a new grandfather, September 5th.
Congratulations.
Granddaughter. Ellie J. Ellie J, named after a couple of her grandmothers, great-grandmother and grandmother, and so looking forward to that. That's my report.
Can I ask you a question on your report, or maybe Denise, just to help next month's conversation on Doug's question about the trail connections? Are you familiar with this discussion at all?
I am. It's been brought up a few times in regards to doing updates, street connections to different points of interest
Right.
within parks. The point being, we've used a consultant to assist us in doing some of those projects with our trails maps, connecting those up with the Metro Regional Trails Plan. And those take a little bit of time and funding. So those maps that we produced, based on the consultant time, my time, that took probably more than 6 months to produce those, in terms of taking information from our GIS to theirs to Metro, so coordinating a little bit of that. The other part is, to what level do we connect those trails? Are they pedestrian friendly? Are they bike friendly? You know, there's a level of detail that trails maps are going to in terms of ADA. Are they easy, moderate, tough? There's a whole categorization that you can get into, because if you just lay the line and you say there's a trail there, the next question is what kind of trail. So there's got to be some determination and thought put forth as to what kind of trail connection map are we trying to produce, to what our end user, to what level in terms of ADA capacities or modalities.
So you're well versed. Great, that's good, and hopefully that can help our discussion next month, because I'm not sure exactly what Doug's scope.
Yeah, after I got his email, I came over to the office and picked up, you probably all seen the this pamphlet. I'm sure he's aware of it. He's not here to talk about it, so I'm not going to say much about it, except there's already some literature about the walking and biking map. And then the Chamber of Commerce has this much, I think it's more extensive, super map in here about all the parks and trails and streets. And so I'm not really sure what he would like to add to what already exists, but he can explain that later.
Great.
Anything else? We're not finished, are we?
No,
Staff
we still have
reports.
staff reports.
And they'll be quick.
Oh,
because I'm
staff
losing my
reports,
voice.
okay. Staff reports.
So the Ermitinger House project, the update is that we have final punch ready to finish up. Landscape has just been installed. We have really, really green grass out there. There's a few things still left on the punch list to complete and our final inspection. So we're really pushing our contractor very hard to get those complete. It's been tough to get the finished trades to come back in to do really small pieces while their construction is booming. It's really hard to pull them off a job where they're making big leaps and bounds and good money to come back and finish some tiny little things. So we're really pushing to get that done so that we can get that kind of off of our plate. The recreation update, I'll just refer you back to those monthly reports that we sent you guys, I think for July and August. And I think that just about does it for me. Oh, Clackamas boat ramp update. So in front of you there's 2 lanes of the boat ramp. So the lane map shows you existing condition so that you have an understanding that we have started our hydrological analysis. And so we have a $60,000 grant to do the analysis of hydrology for that boat ramp area. And part of the goal is to determine temporary fix and long-term viability of a ramp. We've had some preliminary meetings, and as far as a temporary fix, we think that we have something that we can get in play, but we have to get the permitting, and that takes some time. It took me 2 years to get permitting for Sportcraft. I'm hoping this won't take us very long. It'll be more of an emergency or semi-emergency fix since it's been closed for so long. So we got to get through the permitting, put the fix in place. Probably not a super extensive or expensive fix just because we're looking at it to being a short term, and they're talking 5 to 10 years short term fix in its current place. So what they did is they did a actual like GoPro underwater to determine the existing placement of where all those panels are. And on the flip side of that is the existing condition. We have riprap, big boulders that are hiding that big void. But because of the current and the eddy that we have, it was not conducive to trying to fill it back underneath. So that big void is part of our temporary fix. We have to fix that in order for that side to be viable. So if you look at your map, the side that has all the panels nice and straight, that's where the void is. The panels that are all crooked and wonky, that's what we have on the ground on the side upriver. So the downriver side is the void, and the upriver side is the wonky panels. So people will look at that ramp right now and say it looks fine, but this is the existing conditions that we have. So it's an unsupported side where all the panels are fine, and then it's somewhat unsupported. Even though the panels are wonky, there's some unsupported pieces underneath those straight panels. But the wonkiness is where people can, break a prop, drop a trailer, those types of things, or just ruin our panels. They are tongue and grooves, so if you break the grooves and the tongues off, they won't come back together, and we'll have to replace them. So the update is that we are looking at the temporary fix. The long-term fix, we're probably looking a little more downriver where the current calms down a little bit and the channel widens. So we're looking a little further down the point of Clackamas Park toward the Willamette River. So they're looking at a couple of different options and where that might be able to be placed based on the water hydrology. They're going to have this study done by the end of December. So that is our hard projection point of having something in our hands tangible to look at and their recommendations. So the next part, once we get that study back, is funding. How are we going to fund these recommendations? The good thing is Oregon State Marine Board has been an excellent partner, and Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife has been really excellent because they want these open. So the $60,000 has come through Oregon State Marine Board and ODF&W. So we have to thank them for being able to even do this study. But in the long run, they will probably be participants and partners going forward for the temporary fix and a potential long-term boat ramp fix. So funding is going to be a hot topic in terms of what's it going to cost. It was a little over $300,000 to put a new ramp in at Sportcraft, but that's with tear out and relay. So we may or may not have to tear out the old one to lay a new one. So the cost factor, just so you guys have kind of a parameter of cost factor, but we are looking at a different pitch in the embankment. So it could be expensive, but long term we're looking at more than 20-year boat ramp.
Have we ever charged for people using the boat ramp?
No. Recreation immunity, once you charge, you then have more liability if something happens. With recreation immunity, not charging gives us kind of a little bit more latitude with liability. So there's that whole legal piece when you start charging. So we haven't been charging. That is something that has been kicked around, as well as charging for parking. And, that gets a little heated in Oregon City.
Well, and I would make a couple of comments on that because I've owned boats and I've lived in areas that all public boat ramps and parking lots were charged. And I would say that there's two elements here is boaters are paying boater registration fees. They're also paying for a fee relating to aquatic species, invasive aquatic species. And they're also, if they're putting in here and going down fishing, they're paying for fishing licenses. And all of those are paying for that $60,000 grant.
Yes.
So we're getting some assistance back from the fees that the users are directly paying, and that's something to be mindful of.
Anything else, Denise?
If you guys don't have any other questions, I'm about out of voice.
Okay.
Thank you for this. I asked you for this, and I appreciate it.
Yes, great.
Do we
visuals.
have
Thank
any
you.
other comments before we adjourn for the evening? If not, it is...
Next scheduled meeting.
I'm sorry?
The next scheduled meeting.
Oh, we're going to meet again, aren't we? October 22nd. Is that the fourth Thursday? Anyway, it's October 22nd. Okay, then let's adjourn the meeting at 6 minutes after 8 o'clock.